Thank you. I'm glad to be here today to present the work in progress of the Algarve Sustainable Tourism Observatory. This presentation is a result of a joint work with colleagues from the University of Algarve, as well as with collaborators from the Algarve Tourism Board, the Algarve Regional Coordination and Development Commission, and Tourism of Portugal. I would like to thank this fruitful collaboration in order to implement our observatory and to produce information to support decision-making. The Algarve is a very well-known Portuguese tourism destination located in the south of Portugal and recognized for its beaches and golf courses and gastronomy. The main economic activity of Algarve is tourism, responsible for creating thousands of jobs, and is also the main component of our regional GDP. I'm going to start with a classical KPI, and as you can see in this figure, before the pandemic, we reached about 21 million overnight stays. But of course, the pandemic had a significant effect on our tourism demand, but now things are coming back to normal very quickly. As you can see in the right side of this figure, the number of overnight stays until July this year, we have more than 10 million. And in addition, the shape of the seasonality is coming back to the shape we observed before the pandemic. Tourists' behavior and residents' perception about tourism have also changed during the pandemic, as well as the profile of the demand. So it is very important to study how residents perceive the impacts of tourism in our destination, and also to study the consumer behavior of our tourists. In this figure, we can see that about 3/4 of overnight stays before the pandemic came from international markets. During the pandemic, this figure decreased to about 50%, but this year we observed the same distribution of overnight stays. So let's move forward to the presentation of our observatory. It was created in 2019 as a joint partnership between the Algarve Tourism Board, the University of Algarve, the Algarve Regional Coordination and Development Commission, and Tourism of Portugal. In 2020, we joined the INSTO, and last year we established our bodies. The role of the University of Algarve on the observatory is mainly through the Scientific Council, but also through the research centers of the university that study tourism. So the University of Algarve contributes to the observatory in studying the best methodological approaches for the observatory, following the guidelines and the mandatory areas of measurement defined by INSTO, planning all tasks related to methodological approaches and architectural domains of information systems, designing qualitative and quantitative research strategies, developing innovative methodologies to study, analyze, and monitor the Algarve tourism performance in the 3 areas of sustainability, and identifying and use cutting-edge technologies to collect, store, and extract knowledge from large amounts of data. In order to finance the implementation of the observatory, a research team of the university submitted a scientific project called Monitor Project to a competitive call. The project was approved, and now we are working on the main activities of this project for supporting the observatory activities. The Monitor project aims to build an evaluation model to measure and monitor development of sustainable tourism in the Algarve. And this general objective is associated with 3 specific objectives. First of all, to identify the main areas and respective variables and indicators to assess this development in an holistic, comprehensive and sustainable perspective. Second, to quantify these indicators for all municipalities of the Algarve, both in high and low seasons. And finally, to design and implement an online decision support system in order to promote and transfer knowledge for our stakeholders. The project is organized in 4 main activities, each one with several tasks. Now we are working simultaneously in 3 different tasks on activities 2, 3, and 4. We are making the data analysis of the surveys we run this year. We are developing the decision support system, and we are starting our dissemination of results for local and regional stakeholders. In what concerns the methodology followed by the project, this project uses a mixed methodology approach based on questionnaire-based surveys and also in-depth interviews, individual and focus group interviews. It aims to collect primary data to residents and tourists. During 2022 and 2023, we aim to collect about 3,000 questionnaires to residents, 3,000 questionnaires to tourists, and at least 50 interviews to public and private entities. The data will be collected in high and low seasons. And the questionnaires we are using in our surveys are based on an extensive literature review and also based on questionnaires developed by 2 research projects of the University of Algarve, the RESTUR project and the Tour Experience project, in order to start collect data for time series analysis. So this summer, we ran 2 surveys. It was possible to collect about 1,000 questionnaires to residents and 1,000 questionnaires to tourists. The target in what concerns the survey to residents, our target population was composed by all adult residents in the Algarve region for at least 1 year. Since we aim to generate results for the whole region, but also for subpopulations of interest, for example, defined by gender, by age group, and by municipality, we have decided to use the stratified sampling method in order to have representative samples of our population. For example, we aim to generate estimatives for employment by gender and by age group. So we had to select this approach in order to estimate accurate statistics for this type of important indicators. Here we have the distribution of our sample per municipality. The questionnaire to residents had 83 questions divided into 4 sections, plus 7 sociodemographic questions. The questionnaire aimed to measure residents' perception about tourism impacts, involvement and dependence of the tourism sector, residents' support and satisfaction with tourism, as well as pro-tourism behavior and individual happiness, and relationship of the residents with the municipality. We use the traditional scales in our questionnaire, and we use the face-to-face method to collect data using pencil and paper approach to implement the survey in all municipalities. Residents were personally approached by the interviewer's team, who followed the random route method with predefined selection rules. The questionnaires were self-administrated, and prior to the field work, all interviewers received a 2-hour short course, which included questionnaire-related issues, survey procedures, eligibility criteria, logistic issues, and work behavior and ethics. Here in these slides, we have the sample profile of the survey to residents. We can see that the majority of our respondents are female, aged between 25 and 64 years old, and so on. So now I'm going to present some key results, some example of key results derived from the survey to residents implemented this year. I'd like to highlight that our survey to residents aim to generate results in 3 mandatory areas of INSTO, namely employment, local satisfaction, and destination economic impacts. These are preliminary results, and we are now making the data analysis and of course to write the reports. For example, in figure 8, we can see that about 45% of respondents belong to a household that have at least one member working in the tourism industry. Figure 9 reveals that 41% of residents declare to have a tourism-related occupation. And finally, in figure 10, we can see that 18.5% of residents declare that the main income of their household comes from tourism. Now I'm presenting an example of results comparing this year with last year using data collected by the Restur project in last summer. So in this figure, we can show that there is a high level of agreement in what concerns economic impacts of tourism, whether they are positive or negative. We can also, for example, see that negative environmental impacts are significantly higher than positive environmental impacts of tourism. If we make a longitudinal analysis, comparing this year with last year, we can see that residents' perception about positive impacts decreased this year, while the perception of negative impacts of tourism increased. Unfortunately, we do not have this data before the pandemic, but we are looking forward to see these results next year. In this slide, we have information about support and satisfaction with tourism activity in the region. And this figure shows that on overall, residents reveal a strong support of the tourism activity in the region, and they are mildly satisfied with the tourism activity. In addition, residents reveal a pro-tourism behavior. Comparing this year with last year, we can see that residents' support and satisfaction with tourism slightly decreased, but there are not significant differences in pro-tourism behavior. And we can also see that on overall, residents are satisfied and happy with their life. So next steps of our observatory. We have a lot of work to do in the future, but first of all, we are analyzing data and preparing the first reports and start the dissemination of results for our local and regional stakeholders. Today, we are presenting the first results in a local event in the Algarve. We will conduct interviews in this winter to our companies. We will collect data next year in high and low seasons. We will run surveys to residents and to tourists in 2023. We will organize small seminars for stakeholders, and also we will organize conference in order to disseminate the results for the scientific community. And maybe the most important tool for dissemination of our results is the decision support system that we are developing. We are working now with a company that is developing this system, and we are planning to launch this system before next summer. Before conclude, I would like to thank my research team, and thank you for your attention.